Hi. How are we going? Good. These crazy people gave me a laser. It's always a problem. Well, my name's Craig Martin, and as was just explained, I'm the founder of a couple of companies, Indie Travel Podcast and Performance Foundry. Today I'm going to be talking about lessons from work and WordPress, hopefully giving you some takeaways on things that you can apply to your projects, apply to your business, apply to your life. And if that doesn't happen, I'm sorry. There's always Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Craig_Martin or at P_Foundry. We're not making methamphetamines, but that's just what was available. So, I've managed to start these companies while traveling the world and living the dream. No, that whole digital nomad, remote working thing. Well, I've been without a home for 12 years, so I'm not sure if that makes me a digital nomad or just homeless. Wait and see. Wait and see. But it's been quite neat, actually. In 2006, my wife Linda and I left New Zealand, and we started teaching English, not learning Portuguese. Otherwise, this talk would be a little bit different today. But we started teaching English as we traveled, and we decided that we wanted to keep on doing that. And so in 2006, at the end of the year, we started a blog called the Indie Travel Podcast. By 2008, we were some of the world's first professional travel bloggers, making a full-time income from travel blogging. And then as I started getting to the natural end of that, we started slowing down a little bit. My wife Linda decided to go back and do a master's at university. And it's very, very difficult to make a full-time income from writing about traveling when you're not traveling. So hey, something needed to change. And that's when we started Performance Foundry. So hopefully from all of this experience, something useful will come out of it. So lesson number 1, speak softly and employ a huge man with a crowbar. It helps, no matter what business you're in. Right? The man with the crowbar always helps you get paid. Yeah. Contracts are fine, that's okay. The man with the crowbar, yes. So that's a quote from one of my favorite writers and humanists, Terry Pratchett. Who's heard of Terry Pratchett? A couple of people? He writes really fun fiction books. So if you're sick of reading business books, sick of code, go and check him out. We'll finish with a quote from him as well. So how do you start a project? How do you create a new company? How do you create a new product, internally or externally? I'm no business guru, but this is kind of the Kiwi New Zealand way of doing it. Listen, guess, give it a go. She'll be right, might work out. It's a very, very Kiwi approach to business, but it fits in very well with a lot of things. And so this is how we've started each of our internal projects, each of the products that have succeeded, and all of the ones that have failed as well, have started by listening to people, hearing their feedback, hearing their problems, hearing their pain, and then having a guess about how to solve that problem. So that's a nice way to start. Listen, guess, give it a go. The worst thing that could happen is you end up homeless, and I'm doing that already, so hey. So from there we create a minimal viable product. So this is something that's small enough to measure. We need to know if this actually works or doesn't work. Oh. I don't know what just happened. You need to have a defined point of success or failure. So, this is a great experiment. This is something you're guessing and you're giving a go. You also need to know when to stop giving it a go. When you've burnt so much money, when you've spent so much time, when you've tried X, Y, and Z and not got the results you want. And things are going to fail. Not everything's going to work. So you need to have some kind of learning that you can then reapply to something else, reapply to the next experiment. Finally, it has to be viable. I've got a little bit of kickback from people I've done consulting with in the past saying minimal viable products are terrible. Talking with a friend who runs digital at a bank, and their problem was their minimal viable products weren't actually viable. They were just bad products. So that's not what I'm talking about. It has to be something that does achieve or does solve a problem for a client or a customer. And all startups, all small businesses, everyone that's starting their own thing because they're sick of whatever they're doing at the moment, they're all trying to achieve one thing. And I find this really helpful to hold in mind. What we're doing is we're looking for growth in highly uncertain environments. So if we know what's going to happen, there's not really much point in starting a new project. Because people with more resources, with better funds, with better networks, are probably going to beat us. If we're doing the same thing that other people are already doing, and they're already established in it, it's really hard to make progress there. So most of us, when we're starting our own projects, we're trying to create growth in really, really uncertain, unstable, fast-moving environments. And that's why this process of testing and measuring becomes so important. So, of course, to start something, you need to put in time, or you need to put in money. But there's a cool way in which we can put in neither. So let's look at it this way. Everyone needs to back up data, right? You have a computer, you have any kind of data system, you need to back it up somewhere. If you're not doing that, please start. Please. Especially your WordPress website, back that up. So we need to do this all the time. And some of you will remember growing up in the 80s or 90s, and I remember getting my first computer in the 90s when I was a teenager. And backing up was really painful, right? There were things like annual backup day, to remind you that today is the day in the year that you back up all your data. You had external drives, you have floppy disks, you had all sorts of crazy stuff. Now you can plug an external hard drive into something, you can just back it up to the cloud. It's happening automatically all the time. So, classic case. My wife Linda was doing sociology at university, and she was writing an essay on the AIDS epidemic and how that impacted people, impacted society. So, of course, you spend a lot of time holding down the Shift key and writing AIDS. Pretty sure it's the same in the Portuguese keyboard, but there's a small problem in the English keyboard if you hold down Control AIDS or Command AIDS. Select all, italicize, delete, save. The amount of manual backups that has to go into writing anything about AIDS, I'm sure has cost the worldwide scientific community millions of dollars. Millions. So thank God for Time Machine, eh? So with backups, if you have to do something, if you need to take an action, you're failing. The backup system is already broken. It needs to be automated. It needs to be working by itself. So after you've established a product, this is when we need to automate everything. We need to automate the systems and the triggers and the outputs that run right through that system. So what needs to happen in the system? What triggers the beginning of a process? And what indicates the end of a process? After you've got those two bits, you can start to string things together. What decisions might need to be made between the start point and the end point? And the fewer you can get in every block, the easier it is to map, and then the easier it is to automate. So how many of these decisions can we map out? If anyone here has ever done customer service or helped out on help desk before, you know that you couldn't possibly anticipate all of the questions that come into the help desk. Because there are people trying to do strange things with your product that you would never have thought of. So map out as many decisions as possible and then create these triggers all the way through. It helps you automate it, and you go from that minimal viable product to something that's kind of running itself and got its own momentum and got its own life. But as you scale, everything breaks. You know, what works for a website with 100 visitors won't work for a website with 100,000 visitors. I'm sure you've noticed when you need to upgrade from €3 hosting. So instead of business stories, let's flick around. Let's look at a WordPress site. And before we do that, just a little bit of technical information. Nothing too scary, I hope. I promise. So when you put in a URL or you click in a link, the browser goes white for a little moment. You know, and you kind of wait. And then suddenly, after a while, your little bar starts moving across the top of the screen. You get some progress. And finally, you get a page. So that browser goes to get that information. For WordPress, it's going to get a couple of things. We need to process PHP. We need to process MySQL, which is a database which stores a bunch of content. And then we need to go and get any external resources that we might need. And so all of these things are happening on the server in that little second, or hopefully fractions of a second, that your browser screen goes white and you're waiting. So if you're looking at a website on a server, that's called the response time. So if you're looking at that on a server, you can graph it out like this. So you can see, haha, laser. You can see in blue here, this is how long it takes for this website to figure out the PHP side of it. And the yellow here is how long it takes to go and get information from the database. And the little green spiky bits are some external resources that we need from time to time. If you squint really hard, you can probably see that this website is taking up to 2.5 seconds, not to load the page, just in that white screen before the page starts loading. So after you click on the link, you're waiting 2.5 seconds before anything happens. This is known as completely and utterly disastrous. How many people have waited 2.5 seconds for a page to even start loading? Yeah. Feel your pain. So this is the kind of problem that we try and solve. And what we did is we went, hey, you know what? The biggest pain point here is all of this MySQL time. So how about if we got rid of it? Yes. So we dropped in something called Redis cache. It's a type of object cache. It gathers that information from MySQL. He goes, hey, I'm going to put this into faster access. So the next time you ask for the same information, I don't need to go and get it and bring it back again. I just got it. It's here. And so by achieving that, or by adding that little bit of technology, we brought that site down from loading in 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds to loading in under half a second. And under half a second's kind of acceptable. That's fine. So at this point, what's cool is we haven't spent hours doing stuff. We haven't sent the client a big bill. We haven't actually had to touch much code at all. All we've done is swapped something that's slow for something that's fast. And so as you begin to automate business systems, here's one of my favorite things to do. Find the slowest part of the system and get rid of it. Replace something slow with something fast, you're always going to be winning. We have time. Let's look at another one. So just to note that these wins, they can be big. Like, that's a big win. We dropped 2 seconds off the load time. Awesome. They can also be incremental. They can be much smaller. But whatever you're doing, you should have positive forward momentum. If you find yourself going weeks without any forward momentum, maybe it's time to sit over lunch with a glass of wine and find a way that you can get some leverage to move things forward. So here's something that's pretty typical with a lot of themes. And we can see here the throughput, or the people visiting the page, or the processes running on the page. And we can see it kind of spikes over time. This is a 3-day cycle. And this is for an e-commerce site. And every lunchtime and every afternoon and every evening, people would come onto the site and buy things. And so we have, it's only US-based, so it's all in one time zone. It's nice and easy to see. So we can see, like, we're buying stuff, we're sleeping, we're buying stuff, we're sleeping, we're buying stuff, we're sleeping, we're buying stuff. And what we have is this one-to-one relationship with the amount of time it takes to load the web page. So as more people are on the site goes more slowly. And that's not really a good thing. So this one-to-one relationship was really killing us. This time we had to do a bit of digging. And what we found was that when people were loading pages, you see all this brown here? It was hammering the WP posts table in WordPress. All the geeks are going, haha, code example. Everyone else is going, oh my God. So it was hammering WP posts. So we had to find out what it was. You know what it was? It was their menu, the navigation at the top of the website. Some brilliant coder decided that every time we show a menu, we have to go and index every single post ever written on the website. And when you have tens of thousands of products and hundreds, maybe over 1,000 blog posts promoting those products, you don't want to do that. So, tip for young players. So what we had to do is very quickly go, we need to stop this website crashing. We've found it's taking up to 60 seconds to load the orders page because of this problem with post select. So what we did is at this green line here, we just took away the menu. This website has no menu for a couple of hours because we were crashing, right? And so we took it away, and immediately you see this massive drop from this, and we drop it down. And then we actually had to go and do some work. We had to rewrite the query for generating this bit of code. And we optimized that query, figured out what we needed. And so when we deployed it, we could put the menu back, and it's even smaller after that. So we managed to solve a whole lot of problems by focusing not on the entire website, but on focusing on about 5 lines of code amongst tens of thousands of lines of code, and swapping it out. So we're finding the biggest pain point in the system, and then we're going to work on it. You know, the previous example, we just got rid of it, replaced something slow with something fast. This time we had to massage the process, go, what's necessary? When do we need it? When don't we need it? And work on it that way. So yeah, so your project can grow. Test something, play with it, learn about it. Then after you've learned, systemize that and begin to automate it. Replace what a person does with what a bit of code can do. Always design for excellence. Always look at achieving that little bit more, because that gives you the forward momentum and the energy you need. Try and replace slow things with fast things whenever you can. And 80-20 issues. Find the thing that's 20% of the issue that takes up 80% of the problems. Nail it. And remember that no matter where you are in your project or in your business, grow, everything's going to break anyway, so don't worry about it. If you're interested in MVP, iteration, growth in uncertain environments, go grab a copy of Lean Startup by Eric Rice. If you like the stuff around automation, building a company, didn't really touch on this because of time, but building a company instead of building a job, then check out the E-Myth Revisited. If you like the idea of continuous improvement, 80-20 rule, doing big things, for a nice motivational read, pick up The One Thing. For a really hyper-technical and let's really nail this thing kind of read, then go find Design for Operational Excellence. Another bit of wisdom from Sir Terry: why bother with a cunning plan when a simple one will do? Thank you very much.